Welcome back to page 121. Today we're going to take a look at a battered and bruised companion of mine for many years, the Traveller Referee's Companion. It's a big chunk out of the cover. This is my working copy. I've got a better copy in storage. So the idea of this book was to help the referee in dealing with this Traveller universe. I've been doing a series of Traveller GM tips, and I thought, well, this would be a good one to take a look at, just not as part of that series, but just on its own. So this was a very useful book that I saw a lot of time on my table when I was running Megatraveller, and I still make reference to it now and again. So today we're going to take a look at this guy. I want to remind everybody I'm doing a subscription drive, trying to go ahead and raise the subscriptions, grow the channel. I also have a Patreon going, so if there's anything that you can do to help out on the Patreon, that'd be great to help the channel grow also. So that's it. So today we're going to take a look at Megatraveller Referee's Companion on page 121. The Megatraveller Referee's Companion was published in 1988 and follows up on the box set that introduces us to the Rebellion era of Traveller and the Megatraveller setting. This book did a lot to just shape general Traveller. I went into Megatraveller when it was brand new. I was already in it by the time I bought this book, but I was still finishing up one or two elements of my older campaigns. One I ported over into Megatraveller, the other one I used the original rules for. And this book was a real help in both, because so much of the stuff that's in here is even usable today, let alone from 1988. That's 34 years ago as of the filming of this video. The elements in here are still very useful, and in fact, when I was setting up my campaign for that I'm using the Mongoose 2022 update for the current campaign I'm running for Traveller, I actually did pull this book out. This made me think to do this video. I pulled this book out for a couple of sections that are in here. So I'm going to show you this. This book is available on DriveThruRPG as a standalone PDF purchase, or you can buy the CD-ROM of the Megatraveller era from Mark Miller's Far Future Enterprises. I recommend this book especially. This is a very useful book. We start out the very first thing, the inside page. Those are old character sheets for Megatraveller. Tiny, compact little things, aren't they? 8 of them on a page. Of course, you had other notations, but that was your core character, your UPP. And we go to the writing credits. Are designed by Mark Miller. And additional design by Frank Chadwick, Joe D. Fugati Sr., and Gary L. Thomas. And those are the folks I'm really going to talk about. The artists I'm not really going to go into much. I like the artwork on this. I like the cover, except for my little tear there where somebody pulled what was probably a price tag off. I like the artwork. I think it's comparable in a lot of ways to current Mongoose artwork. I'm not a massive fan of Mongoose artwork. I like the artwork, the inside artwork on this kind of stuff, much better than most of the covers of Megatraveller. It's just kind of how it was. So the book begins, tells you what it's for. It's a referee's companion to help you out. And then the very first thing we have is the large-scale combat. Kind of a battle system set for Megatraveller in anticipation of the Rebellion and all the wars to be fought there. I love this picture, by the way. And I tried this. I solo played this a couple of times, and I really didn't feel it was anything that the people at my table in the late 80s or now would be all that interested in. It's not bad, but it didn't feel very Traveller-y to me. I don't know, the flavor just didn't land with me. Again, I could be wrong. If you love this stuff and you thought this was a great mass combat system, then more power to you. I completely respect your opinion. So we're still going on the large-scale combat. Nice graphic. I like that. Like that picture a lot. And then we have the small conglomerate unit example, and then converting it units to independent units. Once they've taken damage, you have to break them up a little bit. And then the combat charts for use with this mini game, and then a conglomerate unit creation checklist. I didn't really care much for the mechanics of this, but I did like the inspirations it gave me as far as doing any kind of cinematic off-panel combats. Any kind of Clone Wars battle or anything like that, that type of scale this would actually give you some good inspiration. So it's definitely worth reading. In-system operations. This I used a ton. Now this has been upgraded and improved a bit under Mongoose, but the core stuff that's here still fits. And it talks about the, in-system operations. What are you doing when you're in system? What are you looking for? The main worlds, the gas giants, satellites, asteroid and planetoid belts. And then you're looking for jump points, Trojan points. And it goes into a lot of detail on it. And this chart was very useful. I went ahead and I copied this. Not an easy thing to do, by the way, in the late 80s. Copier machines were not that common outside of an office. Fortunately, I was working in an office. But this chart was very valuable as far as how many G's you're pulling versus how many astronomical units you move, and then it gives what that would be. So typical distance to a far gas giant would be 6.9 days at 1 G. I use this a bunch. In fact, this is why I pulled this. This chart is why I pulled this book out in the first place. I like the way this chart is set up. I like the system travel diagram that's given here, as you're getting out of jump shadow and all that stuff. And then how you maneuver in real space, in normal space, where you go to your jump, and then if you're accelerating, then you flip over and you decelerate. And it's even got the little formula for your travel time. This was very valuable for me. It gave you step-by-step how to move to a jump point, how to jump. I like it a lot. Activity checklists for you aboard your ship. If you're on a merchant, here's all the things you need to do. If you're a scout, here you go. A military, here you go. This military especially, very valuable if you're running any kind of military or mercenary campaign. Technology. I've already covered tech levels in a previous video. This is where some of the information comes from. The one I did was upgraded from the Mongoose 2022, simply because I've been reading Traveller since 1981, and the tech level charts change and get better as the game is newer. So the newest edition of the tech level charts is almost always the best, because there's a lot more examples. Everything tends to bunch up right here in the middle from 1950 to 2010, and then suddenly we start getting out again. So that stuff is cleaned up more in the current ones because they know what we did in 1990. And then we have nice technology charts that show, what transportation you're using, what tech level, what you get, all the way up to tech level 21. So it's a nice chart. Again, a little outdated by current modes, still worth reading. And then more on the tech levels, going into communications tech, environmental engineering tech, land transport technology. This is just a nice breakdown for your various tech levels. And then we get to robots in the Imperium. Now, Digest Games Products put together, DGP put out a really nice 101 Robots book. I profiled on my channel a while ago. This was one of the earliest looks we had at robots in Megatraveller and how they were going to work. And then it dovetailed nicely with that book, but that book, even at the time, was difficult to get your hands on. But here we talk about the different bots and robots in the Shattered Imperium, who builds robots, how the Salamani and the Zodani use them. Then we come to communications, types of communications, how far they reach, what type you would have access to. Again, just a nice generic Traveller article. You could take this and put it into one of the current JTAS issues, and with very little editing, it would fit beautifully. Mega corporations. I've also covered megacorps in my an earlier video. I took a broad look at the megacorps. I am going to dial in on a couple of megacorps, some of the ones I use in my campaign, in a future video. But this again is just a nice thumbnail of the various megacorps that are out there at the time of the rebellion. Just very nice. Keeping time. How do you keep time based on the Imperial calendar, the Aslan calendar, and across all these different worlds, across all this volume of space? How do you keep time? This part makes a very nice stab at telling you how to do it. I've never borne in that closely on timekeeping in my campaign. Dates, of course, but never, that tight, but it's a good one. Research, how to conduct a research hypothesis, how to test a hypothesis. I always got the idea of somebody who was just finishing up some college work, and wanted to throw this part in. So it's interesting if you're going to do research in your campaign and you're not familiar with the process. A couple of good pages there. And now we got to look at the alien races in Traveller. And we're, of course, going to be looking at the major races here. The Aslan, the Vargir, the Droin, the Zodani. So here we have a nice long look at the Droin. Again, this would be a great article, just lift it as it is and plunk it in something. I know the Droin have been looked at in Mongoose Traveller in 1st and 2nd edition, but this is still worth reading. I've read multiple versions of the same alien races from different editions, and there's always something new you miss or you think of to add. So then we come into Zodani. Zodani are important if you're in the Spinward Marches during the rebellion. The Zodani become very important to you. Here's the Zodani timeline of their existence. Again, just for background, for fleshing out your campaign, especially if you're in the marches. That's a very nice article to have. It's a very long article. Now we come to Aslan, also important if you're in the marches during the rebellion or at any time. My current campaign is being run in the Spinward Marches in District 268. Well, in that area, in District 268. I'm finding these articles fun to go back to and read again. In prepping for this video, I really enjoyed rereading some of these. And then we come to the Vargir. So these are all the alien races you're going to commonly encounter behind the claw. And again, we go to the Vargir history, how they work their cult of personality. Vargir are interesting. I've played a Vargir once. I've run many Vargir player characters in campaigns. They're actually pretty easy to adapt. Biggest problem I ever had is I had a player who insisted on playing it as a dog. So he was constantly doing dog things like sniffing before he'd sit down and circling, and it was his way of interpreting it. It was fine. He was playing it mostly for humor. It did slow play down a little bit, so after a little while, he and I talked a bit about just dialing it back a bit. Now we come to mapping. We got a lot of blank maps here that we've seen in a lot of products, but that would be expected in a product like this. You'd want these blank maps. And there we are. There's the sector map, the subsector grid, the system map, the world map, continent map, local map. Seeing a pattern, it's all dialing in. And then we come to a really sophisticated section on alien languages. I am not a linguist by any means. I speak a little German. That's about it, other than English. But this is kind of nice. If you are into that kind of stuff, here you go. Here's some word generators for you. These appeared in a lot of the old Traveller things from DGP. Here's the sound list, how each of these letters sound in the language. And then we all go all the way to page 97 for the word generation for some blank charts for you to whip up yourself. So they used every bit of this book. There's no blank pages here. And then we're on the back cover. So the Megatraveller Referee's Companion is truly that. It's one of the best of this type of book I've ever read, as far as completeness and ability to take items out of this and apply it directly to your campaign upon reading. When I get stuck for an idea, this is the kind of book I pull out, I sit down with, and I just read a random article here and there, and I go, oh, okay, here's a good idea. I'll do this for my adventure. So I do recommend this one. Again, it's available through Far Future Enterprises as part of the Megatraveller set, or it's available as an individual PDF download on DriveThruRPG. I recommend either one. I do think this is a very good read. As I've said, I would not mind seeing whole chunks of this just taken out and used in current Mongoose stuff as different offerings. I'm sure some of this stuff made it into the alien races from Mongoose, which I unfortunately have not read yet. Those are on my list, but my list is pretty long right now. So that's all I've got to say about the Megatraveller Referee's Companion. This was from a time when I was had a lot more free time in my hands. I wasn't a dad yet. We didn't have a house yet. My wife and I were married about a year when this came out, so I had a lot of time to pour over this kind of stuff and really dial in on my campaigns. And I was happy that at that time I had great offerings like this to entertain me. So that's all I've got to say today on page 121. I hope you liked what you heard and saw. If you did, please like and subscribe. I am on the subscriber push, as I said at the top. And I have Patreon. If you can support that, that'd be wonderful. And that's really all I've got to say today. Thank you for listening. Thanks for your time. And I'll see you next time on page 121.